Welcome to Your Need to Know. I'm your host, Catherine Reed, and joining me today is Cyndi Shanahan of the Giving Circle of Hope. Thank you so much for joining me, Cyndi.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here.
So let's talk a little bit about collective giving. I want you to explain to people what collective giving means and give us a little bit of the background on how the Giving Circle of Hope was founded.
Okay. Well, collective giving is giving into a larger pot of money. So you or I would contribute into a larger pot of money. Then that money is used collectively to amplify and be able to give grants to nonprofits that are generally local nonprofits. For us, it would be a contribution of $415. We pull that together and make $7,000 grants to nonprofits that have a budget of $1 million or less in the Northern Virginia area. And they're all over the United States. They started on the West Coast and then jumped over to the East Coast, which many things do, and have made their way to the Midwest. There's hundreds of them now. In this area, there's 33 giving circles. So there's a giving circle for everyone. We hope many of them like the Giving Circle of Hope, but there is a giving circle for everyone in the metropolitan area. The way that the Giving Circle of Hope was founded was 4 women sat around a kitchen table, and they had been working together at South Lakes High School, and all the way down through elementary school. Their children grew up together, and they had been fundraisers at the high school, and they were wondering what they were going to do now that they were empty nesters. So they decided that they really liked this idea of collective giving. They liked the idea of pulling their funds together to amplify it and be able to make a real contribution to the community. And so they started it 14 and a half years ago. We are having our 15th grant giving season coming up, and we're pretty excited about it. We've given over $1 million. We hit our $1 million marker 2 years ago, and we give about $65,000 or $75,000 in grants annually.
That's amazing. So what is the model? I mean, I have found, especially with women, there's a lot of women who have resources but not necessarily time. So
Right.
This model actually works well for people who are like, I'm not sure to whom my money should go, or how to make an impact,
Absolutely.
or how much time I have to give to this.
Absolutely. So with any collective giving group, and definitely with the Giving Circle of Hope, you can really give as much time as you want to it. So you can, with the Giving Circle of Hope, you can contribute that $415, write the check, and that's all you do. We hope that's not what you do, but or you can become very involved in the grant application and review process, and that starts for us at the end of August and goes through the first week in October with our voting, because we're incredibly democratic. So we go through our voting in October and then make an announcement of the grantees in November. So you can participate in that. It's participating in an interview with a nonprofit. You learn an awful lot about probably 35 nonprofits in the Northern Virginia area that are smaller local nonprofits that are helping people distinctly in the community. Or you can do that and be involved in a book group and help with our Empty Bowls process. So you really can run the gamut of I want to do very little and I want to contribute. Everybody that contributes $415 learns a little bit about each of the 35 or 40 nonprofits that apply. But you can vote without participating in the real review process. So it really does allow you to dip your foot in, become more involved and less involved as it works for you and your family.
I think that makes, like I said, I think it makes a difference because a lot of women want to do something and they don't know what to do, and they also the vetting process. So talk a little bit about where the nonprofits come from as far as how they apply for a grant. You know,
Right.
you've said that it's $1 million or less. I'm assuming they have to be a 501c3.
They do.
So what does the process
do.
look like for the nonprofit itself?
Well, we put out a request for application in May, and then they have through the end of July to make an application. And we sit under the Community Foundation of Northern Virginia, And this year we're pretty excited because we are going to be using their software system. So they are hosting a software application system for us. The nonprofits apply through that application system by the end of July. They will have made their application, and then we do a quick review to make sure they are a 501c3 and they meet the criteria of the Giving Circle of Hope. At the end of August, we gather together, and each of the applications has one person from the Giving Circle of Hope that's going to take that forward and vet it. So the Giving Circle of Hope member will go do an interview with the nonprofit just to learn a little bit more about them, to understand more deeply how their board works, how they work, to understand the project. Or we also have a capacity building effort, so you can apply in one of two directions, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But they interview them, then there's 3 meetings that each of the applications are vetted, and then we do a voting process, and everybody who's a member gets one vote, one set of votes, and they can vote for the nonprofits that they would like to see get a grant, and the top vote getters are the ones that get the grant. So it's very democratic, but very informed.
Right, and so I'm sure there's a range of grants, smaller ones up to more substantial ones.
Yeah, they can apply for a grant anywhere up to $7,000. So what those type of grants do is allow them to have small projects, to pilot things, and to really move forward. The reason that we picked $7,000 was because it seemed like a reasonable amount of money. And then each of the projects has to be $70,000 or less, because we want to have a substantial amount of
impact.
Yes.
Impact.
And
so I can give an example of that. I sit on the board of Bright Paths, and several years ago we absorbed, or we were asked to bring under our umbrella, the Naomi Project by Peggy Ferguson.
Yes.
But when the board considered that, we would have needed a part-time person, which was not in our current budget.
Right.
So we told our executive director, Lisa Wetzel, kind of like, you have to find the money if we're going to hire the person to take on this program.
Right.
And as it turned out, where she found the money was through the Giving Circle of Hope.
Yes, yeah. So we do fund 2 different kinds of grants. One is a project grant, which it would be something like that, and the other one is a capacity building grant, which we're really proud to fund, because they don't come around that often. So a capacity building grant is a grant that it does exactly what it says. It helps the nonprofit grow in a meaningful way. So it could be a marketing plan, it could be a strategic plan, it could be board development. So it's something that actually is helping the nonprofit grow in a very positive way. The project grants are really client-based.
So let's talk a little bit about the events that you have. You mentioned in passing Empty Bowls, but then you also have another annual event that used to be called the Big Give.
Yes, yes.
And that's coming up in September.
Yeah, we're calling it now Together We Give, and it is a demonstration of collective giving. So we're really excited about it. We have a keynote speaker, and you were our keynote speaker last year. And what the keynote speaker does is really talk about collective giving, what it is, and the impact on the community. And then we have 3 nonprofits that will be presenting a project. Each of them will receive some level of funding to come to the event. It's a $25 donation. 100% of that $25 goes to the 3 nonprofits. And so what the participants get from that is a cocktail party.
A nice one, too. It was a lovely spread last year.
With lovely hors d'oeuvres. Then you get to hear the pitches of the 3 nonprofits and vote for the one that you think is most compelling. In that evening, you will find out which of the 3 has won, and shortly thereafter, because donations come in during the evening, then the nonprofits will find out exactly how much money that they will receive.
And that's a great event. I loved it last year, and your people just did a wonderful spread. It was really very well done. It was a lot of fun. It was interesting to meet people.
Yeah.
I met a lot of nonprofits that I was not familiar with, so I
Yes,
thought that
I
was
know.
great. A lot of nonprofits. Some of them have been on this show since then.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about Empty Bowls.
Well, let me go back
Okay.
first to get Together We Give. It will be at Reston Town Center in the Leidos Corporate Center, and it starts at 6:30 on Thursday, the 13th of September. So
Okay.
we'd love to have everybody come from
Anybody
the
can
community.
come, right?
Yes,
If you just want to check it out, right?
absolutely. Yep.
Just come and check it out.
Yep. Empty Bowls is a national program, so you will find them in a lot of different places. Our version of Empty Bowls is also $30. You come, and for that $30, you get a handmade pottery piece, and
Right.
it often is a bowl, but not necessarily. And you get a simple dinner. The dinner is made up of soup, bread, and cake, that's all pretty nice
Yeah.
things. 100% of that food is donated by local restaurants, which is phenomenal. We've been doing this for 10 years now, and Clyde's, for instance, has been a donor the entire time, as have several other restaurants. 100% of that donation goes to Food for Others, which I'm sure you understand.
Yes.
They provide food across the county. So.
And they're a partner with many other nonprofits who
Yes.
provide different kinds of services.
Yes.
And have you held that in the same location for the last 10 years?
No, it has
Moved around?
recently moved. About the last 4 years, it's been at Flourish United Methodist Church, and they've been partnering with us. We have a really nice relationship. I expect it to be there again. I think it's going to be April 26th.
Okay, so that's a
Coming
spring
up.
event.
Yes.
Okay, so you've got your
Yes.
Empty Bowls in the spring, and you've got your Together We Give in the fall.
Right, and yeah, Together We Give kind of kicks off our grant review cycle. We do a few other small things as well, but those are our two major things. So Empty Bowls really is there to provide emergency relief. We really focus in the grants on helping people help themselves. So the types of grants that we give are to those organizations that are really helping people help themselves. And that way, together, we give about $100,000 to the community annually, and we're able to really help out.
Well, I really appreciate you being here.
Thank
This has
you.
been very informative, and coming up in our next segment, we have one of the recipients
Yes.
of a grant that you have given.
Right.
So please join us after this break. We are going to be talking with Heidi and Kari from Friends of Guest House. They'll be talking about their relationship with the Giving Circle of Hope and how this collective giving has impacted the work that they do with formerly incarcerated women here in the Northern Virginia area. So please join us after the break.
I'll never forget the day our landlord called and said, "Read your lease. No pets allowed." My owner tells him my dog ate the lease, but that didn't work. And now I'm stuck in a shelter. But this pit bull is ready for a new crib. I'm loving, loyal, and play well with others. So don't be intimidated by all my muscles, because the biggest one I have is my heart. That's right, I said it.
They told me a bottle couldn't dream. That I would never become a superhero. But I learned how to fly. Just to come back in a new disguise. And be the hero that I've always wanted to be.
Welcome back to Your Need to Know. I'm your host, Catherine Reed, and in this segment, we are talking to Kari Galloway and Heidi Christiansen of Friends of Guest House. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you so much.
So I have had Friends of Guest House on the show before. Give our viewers a little idea of what Friends of Guest House, actually the services that you provide.
Sure. We were started by a woman who was herself coming out of jail and prison 45 years ago, almost 45 years ago now, and came back and found no services for women reentering the community, so opened up a home, and we began she began welcoming women into that home to help them make the difficult transition back from incarceration to finding jobs and homes, and here we are today. Doing
So you've pretty much been in the same location, is that correct, since the house
Yes.
was open, and that's in
in
Alexandria.
Alexandria. Yes.
And so one of the things I like to point out to people is that it is the largest reentry program for previously incarcerated women in the entire Commonwealth of Virginia, and you serve how many people?
26 at a time.
And people should be shocked by that. In
Yeah.
fact, people should be going, oh wow, that is really terrible.
Yeah, especially because there's over 5,000 women incarcerated in Virginia,
And
and
it
the
is-
majority are coming out.
And it's gone
Yeah.
up something like 300% since the 1970s when Friends of Guest House was first opened.
800%.
800% since
Yeah,
Friends of
women's
Guest House
incarceration rate. Yep.
is incredible.
It's skyrocketed.
And so Heidi, tell us a little bit, you are a justice-involved advocate.
I am.
And so tell us a little bit about how you came to Guest House and the work that you do.
Okay, well, I came to Guest House as a resident. So I have gone through the program. I've had the benefit of going through the program. And I'm going to be honest with you, when you are released from a facility, whether it's jail or prison, it's daunting. You have no support system. You're not even sure where you're going to lay your head that night. So immediately upon release, you go into survival mode without programs like this to actually help guide you through this process. So I had applied to Guest House well into my incarceration and was grateful that I was accepted, and came to Guest House after I was released. So I went through the program, their workforce development program, everything. It was the most amazing experience of my life. And as a result of how amazing the program was and what it did for me as an individual, I was super excited to be able to give back to those women through working with the Guest House, trying to reach out to the community. So that's what I do now with the Guest House, and will continue to do until there's no breath left in my body.
Well, and that kind of commitment is what leads to the fact that your recidivism rate is so low. And otherwise, without the support services, women coming out of prison end up going right back because there really isn't any alternative other than the only way they knew how to survive to begin with.
To reoffend.
Right. So the support systems, you're basically helping them to think in a different way, to look at their options in a different way, and to be there to support them when things aren't going well.
And I think importantly too, to look at themselves in a different way, to see themselves as a person of value, to say, I really matter, these people care about me and want to support me in whatever way they can.
Well, when you open the doors to the Guest House and you walk through the first time, you are met with, and I've said this 1,000 times, love without judgment. That can't be said of very many opportunities or very many places. So when someone brings you into the fold and immediately puts food in your stomach, a roof over your head, clothes on your back, and begins to heal you as a total woman from the inside out, and has absolutely no judgment for where you've been, how you got there, or how you've arrived at their front door, that just doesn't happen very often.
So tell me a little bit about your connection with the Giving Circle of Hope and how this idea of collective giving has made an impact on the work that you're doing.
Oh, sure. So I've been at Guest House for 13 and a half years, and Giving Circle of Hope has been on the journey with us for a really large part of that. I think we have received multiple grants from them, and they've all had a huge impact. One of the things I like to say about the Giving Circle is that they took a chance on us and believed in programs, so that we would ask them for money to support a pilot program, which is the program I want to spend a little bit of time talking about today, is one of those that we asked for a pilot grant, got it, worked out the kinks, asked for a rollout grant to try it, and got it. And then that program has since become part of the fabric of what we offer to the women. So the last grant that we got from them is a perfect example, and Heidi just hit on it, the workforce and how important it is, how education is important, and how the opportunity to lift yourself up through sustainable employment is key to helping the women get back on their feet. So we got a pilot grant. We said, workforce development in-house would be really great for us to try, because going into the community for different things wasn't working as well. There's some great programs out there, but we felt that we really wanted one that was tailored to the women that we worked with, that we've been working with for 44 years and knew so well. For instance, we knew it needed to include psychosocial information, not just the hard skills, which are really important, but some psychosocial skills for the women who've experienced trauma, substance abuse, mental health issues, so that we're providing resumes, writing and interviewing skills, but
financial
we're also,
literacy.
Yeah, also, and we work with a lot of the Giving Circle partners too. I'm actually a member of the Giving Circle myself.
Great.
I was so, I just was blown away when I first heard about them. I went with a friend actually before we even got a grant. And I liked that they do things like empty bowls, they volunteer in the community, they work with the community and the organizations that they support, and so I became a member, and then subsequently,
A
working
beneficiary,
at Guest House.
right?
Yeah. So we put together this pilot, and we tried a couple of rounds, and I think you might even have come and taught a class in
Yes.
public speaking
Yes.
and presentation, and we thought, oh, there's so many things we learned from this experience. If we could just really take all that information and roll it out in a significant way, hire somebody to specifically do the workforce training, go after employers who I'm excited to say we now have engaged a lot of in the community, and really build this. And they believed in it. And it's about the third program that their support has allowed us to do. And now it's part of our budget. It's part of what we offer to the women that come through the program. So they believed in it and supported it and gave us the breathing space to really make it a strong program, and here we are.
So grants are a very important part because, again, you're getting, you have donors, you have corporate partners in many ways. You have corporate partners,
Yes.
you have grant-making organizations like the Giving Circle of Hope. But, when you run an organization like this, it is a constant battle to fund.
Yes.
And to scale and expand, that goes beyond even maintaining keeping your doors open.
Yeah.
People who've never worked with nonprofits probably don't imagine how hard it is. It's very hard.
It can be really challenging, yeah.
So they talked about the fact they've got an event coming up on September 13th, is that we give together. You've got an event coming up on September 11th.
Yes, we do, and Heidi's actually working on that as part of her giving back and being a part. She's actually on our board's development committee now, and works really closely with our development team to coordinate events like that. So.
Well, I've actually specifically targeted the women-owned businesses in Alexandria and the surrounding areas because I think that they have a unique understanding of where these women are coming from, the challenges that these women have, entering the workforce without the collateral consequence of being justice involved. That's an added hurdle. But I've targeted them, and we're going to go out there and see if we can find some sponsorship for this event on September 11th. And the panel, I think you're going to be the moderator. I'm excited about that.
Yes, I'm the moderator for this panel. And this is the second
it'll
time.
Be fabulous.
Well,
Yeah,
thank
absolutely.
you. But this is the second time we've done this.
Yeah.
And it really revolves around bringing women into a safe space among people who are interested and care about their stories to help them get better at telling their
Absolutely.
stories.
Yeah. And it's called Helping Women Find Their Voice. So it's all about the storytelling and the impact of sharing that with people to help them to understand that the circumstances that led to most of the women's incarceration are really, they really need to be known and understood by people. And we have just had the most incredible response whenever the women go out and are vulnerable and courageous enough to share their stories. We've seen just so much of the community response. It's really gratifying, and for the women to feel like some of their worst moments are now allowing them to grow and heal is very powerful.
I think it is. And speaking of a nice partnership, Busboys and Poets in
Yes.
Shirlington
Mhm.
is a great space. It's easy to get to. They're very welcoming.
Very.
They have a nice little stage. I like the whole thing. And so you're opening this to the public.
Yes.
It's not by invitation only. Actually, anybody can come.
Yep.
But, again, looking for corporate sponsors, looking for people who want to be more involved in the various programs that you have.
Right. And if they want to, they can find more information on our Facebook page. our Twitter, and our website, of course, are ways to access information about all the things that we're doing. We're trying to be we're trying to be in the community, helping the people understand that we're your neighbors and your sisters. And your mothers and daughters.
Absolutely.
And we, the community, it's a community, we're trying to build a community response, which Giving Circle is such a great, example of, to a community problem, which is mass incarceration in this country, and how incredibly much it's impacting women and families.
And the
at this
entire
point.
community. This mass incarceration affects the entire community, not just the re-entering population, but their children. 62% of the women that are incarcerated are mothers of minor children.
Right.
And they're the primary caregivers prior to incarceration. Who has those children now? I mean, this impacts the children, their growth. It impacts the infrastructure of the community. Somebody has to pay for those kids. And when the mothers come out, one of the best ways to keep them out is to reunite them with their families, something that I think a lot of us didn't think was possible. And that the guest house works with us on methods to take care of that in a timely fashion, meet people where they are, allow things to happen organically, but support you through that process. And that impacts the entire community.
And I think people just have a misunderstanding. Again, 90% of women who are incarcerated suffered sexual or physical abuse. That came from the book Becoming Mrs. Burton, which is a marvelous book. I wish everybody would read the book Becoming Mrs. Burton, because it talks about one woman's journey, but it's writ large as to the trauma that sends most women to jail and prison to begin with. I just want to thank both of you. Kari, Heidi, thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
We appreciate you being here. It's September 11th, 6:30, Busboys and Poets at Shirlington. If you want to hear more of the voices of these women, please join us there. And this is what you need to know.